Hey, and welcome to Sober Shots, your mini version to keep you intrigued and entertained in between our weekly podcasts. I am your host, Trent, and we are here just to talk about the NBA slate that occurred today and give you a quick preview of the slate tomorrow. First, we had the Utah Jazz and the Denver Nuggets. If you missed this one at 10:30 in the morning Pacific time, you missed a great one. We had an overtime game in which we saw two absolute young studs, Jamal Murray and Donovan Mitchell, absolutely take over the game. Donovan Mitchell scored 57 points, which I believe is third in playoff history. What we thought was going to be a slower paced defensive matchup really turned into a scoring bonanza, and that's without Michael Porter Jr. having his greatest game. I mean, obviously he's one of the younger cats and has shown so much potential in the bubble. Didn't quite get to show it off today, but when you've got somebody like Jamal Murray who has it going, you got to get that man the ball. And then in our nightcap, we had the LA Clippers barely squeezed by the Dallas Mavericks, and that was without Kristaps Porzingis, who got two technical fouls and was out 20 minutes into the game. So the Clippers got some things to tighten up. It looked like at the beginning that they were going to absolutely run away with that game. I want to say it was 18-2 a couple of minutes in, so it almost looked like the Dallas Mavericks weren't quite ready to be in the playoffs. But you had players Tim Hardaway Jr., Seth Curry, and of course Luka Doncic step up and really show what they're about. And I mean Luka, I mean man, that guy's good. I mean he might be young, but he's been playing Euro basketball for quite some time. So he's got that professional experience, and I think the Clippers are going to have their hands full with this series. But of course, I do think the Clippers come out on top. So tomorrow we've got a full slate of games as well. It's absolutely amazing getting these games starting at 10:30 in the morning Pacific time, and they're going all the way until about 9 o'clock. But the slate kicks off with the Orlando Magic and the Milwaukee Bucks. We get Giannis Antetokounmpo and his guys going up against Nikola Vucevic and his Magic. I think this game is going to be slow, but I thought the same thing about the Utah Jazz Denver Nugget game today. But if I was a betting man, which I am, I would take the under. I believe the under is set at 221. I would definitely take the under on the Milwaukee Bucks and Orlando Magic. The Orlando Magic like to play at a snail's pace, and we all know the defensive juggernauts that the Milwaukee Bucks can be when they anchor down. So I would take the under there. And then in our second game, we've got the Miami Heat and the Indiana Pacers. We've got the rivalry that's been brewing for quite some time. Jimmy Buckets versus T.J. Warren. T.J. Warren being one of the finalists for Bubble MVP. I mean, that man found his jump shot over the hiatus and really came back with a vengeance. You've got Malcolm Brogdon. You've got Victor Oladipo's finally back. So they've got a solid squad of guards and forwards to really be able to get it done. They're probably going to miss Sabonis a little bit, but I think that they have a good chance of making this a competitive series. And of course, the Miami Heat, Goran Dragic, Bam Adebayo. You've got the young guys over there as well as Jimmy Buckets. It should be a hard-fought, intense matchup. I think that will end up being one of the better, most intense games or most intense series of this first round. And then in our third game, we've got the Houston Rockets versus the Oklahoma City Thunder. Chris Paul against his former squad in the Houston Rockets. Russell Westbrook will not be playing in this game, so that kind of deflates the revenge factor a little bit. But of course, whenever Russell Westbrook's out, James Harden is going to steal the show. If there's any prop bets out there for any kind of stats for James Harden, I'm taking the over. I mean, if it's anything around 30 points, if you give me points, rebounds, and assists of 50, I might take it. James Harden is going to be a man on a mission, and he's got to bring his A game against these Oklahoma City Thunder, who a lot of people counted out going into the beginning of the year after losing Paul George via trade to the Los Angeles Clippers and replacing him with Chris Paul. Losing Paul George and Russell Westbrook. So replace him with Chris Paul. But you've got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander as well as Danilo Gallinari and Steven Adams. They've got a very good, solid squad of a bunch of solid players. And then their leader, of course, Chris Paul. They're never quite out of it. And then in our nightcap, we've got the LA Lakers and the Portland Trailblazers. I mean, Portland has been the hottest team of the bubble. We've got bubble MVP Dame Lillard, CJ McCollum, Carmelo Anthony, Yusuf Nurkic, Hassan Whiteside. Did I say Carmelo Anthony already? You got Carmelo Anthony, Gary Trent Jr., who has been a surprise of the bubble, knocking down the 3-point shot at a consistent rate. They're definitely a team that you've got to keep an eye out for. They've got the offense. The question is can they have one solid defender who can stop LeBron James? And I think that's where the issue comes in for them during this series. I mean, LeBron James has been a man among boys since he's arrived in the league. And so you add him with Anthony Davis now, who, on a similar scale has been a man among boys ever since he entered the league out of Kentucky. So you've got, two of the top three best players in the world on the same squad, surrounded by shooters. Deion Waiters, KCP, Kyle Kuzma, and then they've got the interior defense with JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard. I think that the deepness of the Los Angeles Lakers, as well as the sheer star power of the Los Angeles Lakers, is going to just be too much for the Portland Trailblazers to handle, even though they've got Dame Dollar, who, has been dropping, 50-point games back to back in the bubble on the race to the playoffs. The question is did he tire himself out? I guess we will see tomorrow night on TNT. That is it for this episode of Sober Shots. Again, giving you a quick sneak peek of things that we have going on as Sober Sports until we get to the podcast over the weekend. I've been your host, Trent. You can follow me on Twitter at amazing_I am, and you can follow the Sober Sports Podcast on Instagram as well as Twitter, and you can catch these Sober Shots on IGTV. And if you haven't caught the podcast, you can catch us on iTunes, Anchor, Spotify. Feel free to reach out to us on Anchor/FM or anchor.fm/Sober Sports, where you can leave us an audio message, and we would love to take your questions and answer them on the pod. Again, I've been Trent, and this has been Sober Shots, and we will catch you again next week.